Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're here to talk about movie theaters and especially watching classic films on the big screen. Today is another kind of personal video in which I will share some experiences watching classic movies in movie theaters that completely changed my view on those films and made me love even more cinema and especially classic films. And so today's video is sort of a love letter to movie theaters, and that I think is also a lovely thing to share with you as well, because I'm sure many of you have also very lovely experiences watching classic movies on the big screen. And so without further ado, I'll start discussing 7 films that I learned to love because I got to watch them on the big screen. And I'll start by talking about one of my favorite screwball comedies, one of my favorite rom-coms, thanks in large measure because I got to watch it on the big screen in a movie theater here in my hometown called Méliès, which is sadly gone, but got to be a very important part of my being able to watch classic films on the big screen for a period of time. I got to watch there several wonderful classic movies, but if there's one that really made an impact, that was definitely Midnight, released in 1939 and directed by Michael Leeson. I was not at all unfamiliar with screwball comedies.
Oh yes, I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Peabody.
But particularly Michael Leeson films, those were comedies that I discovered later. I also got to watch it at a time when I was really into Billy Wilder, so learning that he wrote the script for this film really also made it more meaningful for me. It is a wonderful story, which is a spin to the fairy tale of Cinderella.
Forget every Cinderella has her midnight.
Full of witty and brilliant dialogue, and it has a marvelous cast with Claudette Colbert, Donna Amici, Mary Astor. She was an actress that I really admire, no matter the genre or the kind of film I see Mary Astor in. John Barrymore, his delivery is spot on, and Rex O'Malley. So there's something about this comedy that takes place in Paris, this kind of witty and super classy farce.
Mother, I say, here she is. I found her, and the dawn will be pale behind the oaks.
It won't be as pale as Mother.
That delivers hilarious situations immediately, as I said before, turning this movie into one of my favorite screwball comedies and comedies in general. But moving on, also a classic movie that I got in this case to rediscover and to appreciate thanks to a movie theater experience was Walt Disney's 1940s Fantasia. This was a Disney classic that I didn't particularly connect with growing up, not just for its concept and magnitude, but also because I remembered that there were several scenes quite dark. I'm talking especially about the sections called The Rite of Spring or A Night on Bald Mountain. These were particularly scary parts of the movie for me growing up. And it took watching Fantasia on the big screen in a movie theater in Barcelona's city center called Comedia, incidentally where I watched growing up all the Disney releases of the 90s. So it was a fantastic experience. One that, again, as a fan of animation, I really recommend watching Fantasia on the big screen. And now I'll talk about 2 classic movies that I got to discover because I watched them for the first time also in a movie theater, but in their cases it was in Paris, which I think, as a classic film fan, experiencing movie theaters in Paris, in France, is one of the most amazing experiences there are. But coming back to those 2 films, I will discuss first a film noir classic called Fallen Angel, released in 1945 and directed by Otto Preminger, which was an Otto Preminger film that I hadn't seen up to that point. I was already a fan of Laura, I was already a fan of Dana Andrews' work, but particularly Fallen Angel is a movie that tends to get really overlooked, probably because it was released just a year after the great success of Laura. And these 2 films, although they had many members of the same crew, the same director, and the same male lead, they really are very different from one another. And I got to watch it in a movie theater called Cinema Mac-Mahon, and it is one of those also quintessential movie houses, also because it appears in Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless. This cinema is true history right in the heart of Paris. So everything about this movie theater screams love for cinema, and obviously it makes for a wonderful experience. And in my case, at the time I visited, they were showcasing Fallen Angel, depicting a very gritty story based on a Marty Holland novel adapted for the screen by Harry Kleiner that perfectly showcases the ambiguity of the central characters in many Otto Preminger films, and Dana Andrews certainly proves to be the perfect actor for this brilliant Preminger noir.
Easy come, easy go. I got everything by talking fast in a world that goes for talk, and end up with exactly nothing.
And with a cast that features also Linda Darnell in a femme fatale kind of role, Alice Faye, Anne Revere, John Carradine, or Charles Bickford. Preminger would work with Dana Andrews on 3 other occasions, aside from Laura, with Gene Tierney again in Where the Sidewalk Ends, and in another overlooked film called Daisy Kenyon with John Crawford and Henry Fonda. But in my case, Fallen Angel is a particularly favorite of mine, again precisely because I watched it for the first time in Paris in a movie theater. And the other film that I also got to watch in Paris was Billy Wilder's Avanti, released in 1972, which is also a Billy Wilder film that tends to get overlooked. This time it was a movie I was already familiar with, as it was for a long time one of my mom's favorites. And it features Jack Lemmon and Juliet Mills as the lead romantic couple of the movie, and also Clive Revel playing a very funny part of a hotel manager. The movie takes place in Italy, and it has quite a particular premise. It is not your typical and usual love story, also not your typical Billy Wilder film, as he was changing with the times, and it even contains some nudity, which might surprise some. It is quite a melancholic satire. It is a different type of movie, but this is not at all to put you off, as it is also a lovely tender story with a beautiful soundtrack, even though again with some representations and portrayals that nowadays feel very outdated. Nevertheless, it is a film that I'm quite fond of because I got to experience in Paris in a movie theater called Le Champo, located in the Latin Quarter, also a place with quite a history of its own, as it was frequented by filmmakers such as Claude Chabrol and François Truffaut. So again, it is a lovely movie that again, within this magical environment of the movie theater in Paris, it became quite a memorable movie for me. And if watching Billy Wilder's Avanti had already been a terrific experience,
Oh, yes, of course.
I cannot fully express the excitement, the joy of watching and really discovering The Bridge on the River Kwai for the first time in a movie theater called Aribau here in Barcelona for the 70th anniversary of the D-Day that involved screening several classic war films. And in the case of this film, of this epic and iconic war film, it was one of those movies that for some reason, maybe because it's a long film, I had kind of avoided watching it in its entirety for many years.
What have I done?
And also, much like other examples that I've discussed in today's video, it took for me to watch it on the big screen to fully appreciate, to fully enjoy the brilliance of The Bridge on the River Kwai. Of all the films that I have discussed today, the one that really surprised me the most was The Bridge on the River Kwai. Maybe because, as I said, I had postponed watching it and I had created a preconceived idea of what the movie was about. It totally blew my mind what truly the film and the message of the film is about.
This is just a game, this war. You and that Colonel Nicholson, you're two of a kind, crazy with courage. For what? How to die like a gentleman, how to die by the rules, when the only important thing is how to live like a human being.
And particularly the performance of Alec Guinness, it was mesmerizing. Every single aspect of the film is so well crafted, is so visually enthralling, is so iconic. It's no wonder that it is the film that Steven Spielberg watches every time he has to direct an adventure film. It is really that kind of a masterpiece. And in case you don't know, this is a film that was based on a novel by French writer Pierre Boulle. It was adapted for the screen by Michael Wilson and Carl Foreman, who were both blacklisted at the time, and it features again the wonderful and iconic performances of Alec Guinness, William Holden, who is, as many of you know, one of my favorite actors.
Oh, by all means. Good hunting, good show. Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
but also Jack Hawkins, the wonderful Sesue Hayakawa, and many character actors that are wonderful in the movie. And again, if I can leave you with a movie that was really impactful and that really encapsulates what the feeling of watching a classic movie and discovering a classic film in a movie theater means to me, that is, as I said, the feeling I had when I watched on the big screen The Bridge on the River Kwai. As always, it would be lovely to hear from you. Feel free, as always, to share your experiences in the comments down below. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, for your love for classic movies, for your support, and I hope you have a great day, that you take care, that you stay safe, and see you all soon with another video. Bye!